Hello everyone and welcome to the channel Life After Work UK. Last week I touched on the basics of workplace pensions, and today we're going to look at how small changes in contributions can make a big difference to the long-term value of your pension. In this example, we'll look at how an £157,000 difference could arise. Now, it's key to remember this is just for illustration only, it's not personal advice, and of course the numbers will vary for everyone. So picture this, it's the 1800s, and if you couldn't work, you simply couldn't eat. There was no safety net for older workers who'd spent their lives building Britain's industrial revolution. But the story actually starts much earlier. The very first workplace pensions appeared in the late 1600s with prestigious institutions like the Bank of England and the East India Company. These weren't just any employers, they were the powerhouses of British commerce, recognising that securing their workers' futures was essential for building lasting enterprises. If we fast forward to 1948, Britain launched something revolutionary, the state pension. Suddenly, everyone had a basic foundation for retirement to build upon. But as living costs rose and expectations grew, it became clear that the state pension alone wouldn't provide the comfortable retirement most people desired and wanted. So the real game changer came in 2012 with auto-enrolment. The government said enough is enough to the millions of workers with no workplace pensions. So now, if you're over 22, earning more than £10,000 a year, you're automatically enrolled into your employer's pension scheme. Now, to the great part, your employer must contribute too. A slight nuance here is that if you're earning between £6,240 and £10,000 a year, your employer doesn't have to auto-enroll you, but you can opt in, and if you do, your employer must contribute. It's effectively like getting a pay rise that you can't spend today, but you will thank yourself for in 30 years' time. Now, from Victorian workhouses to automatic enrolment, we've come a long way. Today's workplace pensions aren't just a nice to have. For a lot of people, they're the ticket to financial freedom in retirement. But let's have a look at an example. So before we go into Jane's circumstance here, just to be clear, this is not based on anyone in particular. It is purely a demonstration and it is an illustration and not advice. Everyone's circumstances are different, so this is just for information only. Now, Jane is 28 years old, she earns £35,000 per annum, and she has a planned retirement age of 65. Now, for the parameters of these calculations, we've considered that Jane's earnings will rise by 1.5% per annum. Her pension, her workplace pension, the underlying investments in there, will give an annualised return of 5% per annum. The ongoing charges of that scheme will be 0.5%, and their inflation headwind will be 2.5%. So Jane starts off her new career and her new job, and of course on the first day it's very busy in meetings, being introduced to a number of people, and generally very busy. But what she's done is she's agreed to proceed with a 3% employee contribution, which is going to be matched by her employer at 3% as well. What she's maybe made a slight oversight on here is that in the terms of her employment, her employer will actually match up to 5%. But under the circumstances, she's agreed 3, it's going to be matched at 3 at this point in time. So what we see here in intervals of 5 years is the actual contributions in green here is made up of 6%, which is 3% of Jane's employee contribution and 3% of the employer's contribution. So over a 5-year term between 28 and 32 years old, she would have put in just over £10,000 into her workplace pension scheme. But what's been missed there is by not maximising that opportunity of matching up to 5%, she's missed out on quite a considerable amount, especially over time, of just over or just between 15,000 and 20,000. And each year that compounds, and that's not even considering any investment growth as well. So under those circumstances, Jane's going to pay in 3%, her employer will pay in 3%, and indicatively that workplace pension value will be at age 65 around about £235,000. Now, when she reaches 65, if she wanted to start withdrawing 4% per annum, this may provide her an indicative income of just over £12,500 per annum. And we've considered that we want this income to last her up to age 100. So Jane reads into her employee benefits and realises her employer matches up to the 5%. She's come to that realisation, and she speaks to the HR team or the finance team and says, listen, I'm going to increase my contributions up to 5%, and therefore the employer does as well. Jane has recovered a bonus that she could have been missing out on had she not picked up on that. Free additional money into a pension scheme, and that's moved her indicative pension forecast value from up to £392,000, an increase of around about £157,000, which of course is always going to come in handy in retirement. So that increase could potentially provide Jane with just over £21,000 per annum from age 65 to consider a increase. But if Jane's reviewing her finances and says, actually, I'm saving outside of my pension, saving pretty well, maybe I could just put in a bit more. The terms with her employer is that she can pay in they'll match up to 5%, but she's not restricted to paying just up to 5%. She could add an additional amount if she wanted to, and in this case she's going to add in another 2% there. So that brings her employee contribution into her pension to 7%, and her employer will still be capped at 5%. The difference on her indicative pension pot at age 65 is considerable though, reaching potentially £470,000. So that could potentially provide her an income from 65 of just over £25,000 per annum. So if we go back to the 3%, paying in that amount would have given her potentially £235,000. An additional 2% matched with her employer, giving her a total of 4% increase into the pension contribution a year would bring it up to potentially £392,000. And then, of course, if she alone added an additional 2%, the indicative pension value would be £470,000, which, going from the 3 to the 7, increase of around about £235,000, which is a considerable amount of money. Now, of course, taking these small steps are very, very valuable to your overall planning, and it may seem for a lot of people it's too early to start thinking about this, but the reality of doing this and taking these small steps, it can lead to huge outcomes for you and your retirement, and you will thank yourself. But we know life's not that simple, right? So we've got stages of our financial life when you're young and you've got different priorities. You've got a lifestyle to maintain, you've got holidays, you've got maybe a house deposit to save for. As you go through life, different priorities arise, and of course that can have an impact on how much you pay into your pension. There is also the fact that you get other things in there like promotions, higher salaries. This could also have a positive impact on your retirement. And the key stage here is that when you get to those kind of 50s, 60s age, you want to look at your phased retirement or your fully retirement plan and say, okay, what does this look like for me? What do I want my pension pot to do for me at this stage? And that's the key takeaway. By increasing your workplace pension contributions, not only are you boosting your own retirement savings, but in many cases, you're unlocking extra money from your employer too. It's one of the few times where you really do get something for nothing. So have a look at what your employer can match for you and maximize it if you can at that point of opportunity. Of course, how much you should contribute depends on your own circumstances. So if you're at all unsure about this, please reach out to me or speak to your regulated financial planner before making any changes. If you found this helpful, please don't forget to like, subscribe and share the video, and check out the videos that will be coming out soon. Thank you.